Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, probably 18 and up unless you have a custodial account. Before I completely ruin this intro, that is not clickbait on the title. Let's just pull up the VIX real quick because the volatility is not going anywhere. So right now, the VIX is headed south. And if you guys have ever followed me for any amount of time, you've heard me break down the VIX. I don't zone it out like you hear me zone out everything else. Because, and I have to just preference this, I use this like a light switch, right? It is on or off. Right? So every chart, right? Every stock out there, it's red and green candles, right? So when the VIX is up, that's a big red or green candle possible, you know. And then when it's below, you know, it's probably just small, medium red candles. We continue on as such. The VIX sold off today, and it's selling off, and everybody's just thinking sunshine and rainbows. Unicorns and roses. You know, we're just going to go to the moon, and NVIDIA certainly got that memo and absolutely sent it today, so anybody in tech, you probably saw that. But there's one distinct thing. Now, honestly, I do think the fireworks are probably done for the week, but the one thing I'm going to show you is volatility. And I don't want anybody to think, oh, I'll check the volatility. Let me check the VIX. Let's check the VVIX, the volatility of the volatility index. Nothing. Still selling off. All the same. Okay? Before we get into anything, check out the S&P right here. This should be alarming because this tells me right now that the stock market couldn't predict the weather for the next 15 minutes if it was standing outside with not a cloud in sight. Okay, this is bouncing off the padded walls, not looking good. Last week, we did 3 standard deviations down, 1% chance of that happening. And this week, we just broke the standard deviation to the upside. Why are we catching the market so off guard? And if you actually look at just historically, when we usually break a standard deviation up or down, right? It's not biased. This is what market makers have priced in to both up and down. It's kind of like how they handicap the risk, kind of how they know what's going on. As long as the mice play in their little cage, the cats don't need to come, right? And if you just look back, and I did a lot of this with back testing because I had a trading bot for the longest time, and I would sell call options, and put spreads off this every week. And I used to have it turned off if it would break standard deviation because you don't want to take losses when you're selling an options contract back to back. So I started really deep diving into it, and when we break that standard deviation, oftentimes we price it in the next week. So if we just pull up the, let's just pull up the expected moves real quick. So looking at this, IWM 657, QQQ 1388. This is normally like $11. This is normally 10. This is 5. Everything was elevated after last week's 3 standard deviations down, and we just broke this one up. So which one is it? Who's getting it wrong? Why is everyone so wrong? And that's what I would really watch out for because that kind of seems like we're just unraveling at this point. We don't know what to do. The market makers have no idea what to price in. Should we price in a bunch of calls, puts? So far, everyone on the table thinks we're going to be within this range, and then, surprise, we just absolutely send it. After all, sending it down first and then right back up. Janet Yellen determines price discovery. So anyway, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to cover that first because I'll get into my opinion next because I kind of think we're going to rein it back in. I do think we're going to dial it back in and be done. But when we're playing with volatility like this, oftentimes, like the next day, we'll find out it's like something that's like, oh, yeah, that could happen. And then I move on. And the next day, that's exactly what happens. You know, it's like there's the 90% probably what's going to happen, but then we're just jacking around in volatility land, and it's all the other things I kind of just slightly mentioned just to put that disclaimer out there happens. So if we absolutely send it, let me see, what's the S&P? S&P's two standard deviations, 566.27. At this point, I'd be scared to even sell those. She almost. For everyone that's been following me, you guys know the second we get to that 1.5 standard deviations, I sell $2 spreads all day, like they're going out of style. I mean, probably more than any Girl Scout has ever sold cookies. You know, as long as we get to that 1.5 mark, right about to this one standard deviations here, 2 standard deviations here. Once we get to that 1.5 mark, usually the 2 standard deviations, which were absolute junk contracts, not paying crap, you know, they've juiced up a lot. All the gamblers have flooded in, really driving liquidity into those, and then I sell it. I take their money. I don't know if I would this week, to be honest. I might get talked into it, but it'll certainly be a lot less. It won't be 20. It'll be 10, if not 5. So that could still be said. I think a lot of people are going to talk about support and resistance, and we should watch out for this level. And you certainly should. But right now, more importantly, the fact that we're above here should grab your attention. Now, I say anytime we get above this, I say this a lot, more often than not, we rein it back in, we bring it back in. Market makers don't want to do any work, and plus these poor market makers, they had to do work last week. They had to delta hedge to 3 standard deviations. They're probably tired. They had to move their thumbs. They're opposable, poor little thumbs. They're not the optimist bot with metal fibers. They are muscle. They are deteriorating as we speak. Probably looking at health benefits, carpal tunnel. You know, I don't know where it's going to end, but it's going to be a lot. Anyway, those poor guys or girls, elephants, and whatever they identify as. The they, thems, all of them. I just want to make sure I cover everybody. I'm not being sarcastic. Anyway, whoever's a market maker out there who had to do work last week because we didn't want to just bring it back up. We just went into absolute melt mode. Sent it. I don't know. Do they want to do work twice a week? NVIDIA does need to chill. Yeah, NVIDIA needs to chill. There was an event today with Goldman Sachs and Jensen Huang, and I wasn't in there because they had reached their capacity. I'm pretty sure what he announced was we're going to start giving away our new chips at Sam's Club in the sample section and see if everyone likes them, and then we're going to sell them at Micro Center for $50. I think that's what they said because that's certainly what the chart says. You know, looking at the charts, I think Jensen Huang said, I like what Oprah's doing. I'm going to take a page out of her book. H100s for everybody. We're on to the new stuff anyway. So you get H100, and you get H100, and everybody does. Now use that processing power to its fullest and report back. So anyway, I hope I've driven that enough to the fact that this should be cause for some concern in your trading portfolio. You know, as far as investing goes, you'll see moves not quite like this, but the ups and downs are just part of the game. For any traders out there, and I'm specifically speaking to 0-day expirations or futures traders, it's not time to go all in on anything. You know, it's just, if you want to play this volatility, do it. If you think you got the setup, I like to take 2 losses before I just say enough is enough. I'm probably just taking 1 on a lot of these. You know, so I'll buy something as it hits a zone, and let's say it drops down, wicks out, tags out, jumps back up, you know, obviously creating that wick. I'm like, okay, I was off just a little bit. Let me get back in. And I put my stop loss below that new wick. After that second loss, something's not jiving, and I'm out, you know. This is what I mean by I'm probably just going to try to catch that knife once. I either make it or I don't. You know, the little roulette ball just didn't land on my number. Let's jump into the stream like we normally do. All right, starting off with the dollar. Hitting this weekly zone. I'm okay with the sideways action as long as we remain right here, and we're going to turn this thing down a little bit. I'm still incredibly short the dollar. I'm US dollar, Japanese yen short. What I did here was, if you guys are new and you guys just don't know, a lot of market makers and market movers, they do subscribe to me. They know these zones, so I like to throw them little signals so they don't get confused. I have to leave the monthly zone there, but I want to let them know, like, this is the plan. Don't mess it up, or we're going to fight. You know, something along those lines. This is what I'm really hoping happens. These are monthly zones. This 140 mark on a smaller time frame is a zone. That's where management modes probably have to step in. So anybody that is short this, remember, I'm on the weekly time frame. There's a reason I'm looking at the monthly zones. Anything daily, 4 hour, you're going to want to watch out for this 140. And it might even be a decent oversold bounce at that 140 zone. Maybe tag out, go long for a bit, and then jump back in short. I'm not going to take that play. I'm staying short. I am 1 million units short, and I'm only going to add. But I'm going to have to let all that play out first before I add on any more. All right. I'm also short the US dollar CAD. I don't know what we need to do with maple syrup and oil, but make it happen. I'm rich. I didn't know I was rich today. Hang on. We did reject that zone. Last I checked, we had not. Heck yeah. Okay, never mind. I'm rich. Sorry. Not condescending, but I added on at 136078. 136078. Almost top ticking it right there. Right, that type 1. So that's up. Now melt this thing down. Okay. I think obviously maple syrup should be. It does not get the attention it deserves. It should. Oil, send that thing to the roof, because who likes cheap gas anyway? When you got this stuff playing out, you can afford the extra gas. So melt that thing down. Anything bullish, the CAD would send this thing down, which is what I'm saying. I'm also short the U.S. dollar. You'll notice Canada, I think all they have is oil and maple syrup. And they even look the same, pretty similar. That's what drives a lot of their economy. You're short how much U.S. dollar Japanese yen? It's 10 lots, 1 million units. Thumbs up now or pulling the plug in 5, 4, 3. That is how fast I talk to my kids, too. If I have to count, it is that pace. And they move. I've noticed other parents, they talk a lot slower, and the kids move slower. You get that countdown a little bit faster, they start moving, a little pep in their step. A little parenting advice out there. All right, Bitcoin. Listen, I don't really care about the debates. I know, I think Meet Kevin's a big YouTuber that talked about it. He thinks Bitcoin moved because of Trump and the debates. I'm just not in that camp. I'll just put it that way. I don't care if it's right, wrong, or what. Not a camp I'm in. I'm just going to stick to the zones. Still had some sellers here. Made it as low as this zone. We're right back up. I think Meet Kevin drew a line somewhere. He talks about his lines a lot. 57. It's somewhere right here in the middle. Market makers shorting your videos. They don't want you to get views. It's why I'll never grow. They have the plug on the videos. Not the cool plug like the slang term. They have the actual plug, and they just like to unplug it when I'm done. Don Fron for president. I don't know if you guys would want me as president, but I'm down. I am certainly down to run the next election, or not the election, the next debate. If there's somehow I could get into that chain, if there's something I need to do, let's do it. I could run a debate way better. For starters, I would mute their mics. I'm going to ask them a question, answer the question, or the mic is off. And I'm going to remind them, I asked you a question. Answer it. I couldn't stand that. I really can't stand that debates. I don't know why I get upset like it's ever going to be any different. This is the last thing I'm going to rant about that. Does it not drive anybody else crazy? Especially when they ask a question you want an answer to, and you get like the perfect politician response where they just point at the other person or just kind of just swerve the other way. You're like, no, rein it back. I had that question on my bingo card. Answer it now. Anyway, rant over. Bitcoin hanging out. Again, for anybody that maybe are just chiming in, I don't have any high expectations of Bitcoin until after the elections. I know I just said it's not tied to Trump or anything, but this is like a disposable income asset. Regardless of what anybody says, people that are buying this, anybody retail, it's like the extra money. There's the weird ones, they have they're very allocated. But then there's everyone else that's like, I bought $20. I bought this and that. That's also the first to go. Savings accounts are gone. Credit cards are maxed. Tinfoil hat or not, election season, so maybe gas is a little bit cheaper. Maybe hold on a little bit longer. When things get rough, I think this is the first one to go. I just don't think anybody's making any big decisions right now. Also, that goes for real estate. Anybody else notice that? Whew. I don't know. And I get it. There's no way I'd be buying $1 million house right now. Absolutely not. We're going to hang that up for a little bit. S&P. There's something really upsetting about today. And I mean this close. This was right here at the bottom. Of course, obviously now, hindsight. It was right here at this zone. So I did this the other day, right here. And I bought it and just trailed all the way up. It didn't tag out until later that night over here. I saw the exact same move, an absolute panic and meltdown. And we started to turn up, and then I saw this bull flag or reversal. And I started to think, like, all right, I'm going to have to alert the chat. I'm going to have to let them know I'm in it. And I was like, nah, because how that played out so perfectly yesterday, The part that sucks about running a chat and telling them everything you do is when they miss out on that winner, the second one, like I'm not going to miss the next one, and allocations out the risk management out the window. They're like, I'm going to follow this guy. And it's usually off the bridge the second time. I don't want to use that as an excuse, but that's really why I didn't take the long play right here. And this wick was already there. It's close to the end of this candle, and I was about to just go long. Long ES. You know what? This from here to here was a great trade. From here to here, talk about missed opportunity. This does look like manipulation. We've talked about this exact move before. You drop a whole bunch, create that panic. That gets everybody to sell their positions, and then you gobble it back up. It's why I was telling everybody, not financial advice, but for the love of God, please buy Tesla. Basically what I said, you're going to recognize the move right here, as a matter of fact. So you can go back to my videos. If you're on TikTok, just go to the YouTube. This exact move right here was what I was talking about. And then it happened again right here. They melt it down, create that panic, and then send it. Now, they jump into market movers, market participants, not market makers, because there is a difference. They play this game for a reason, and it's not to make 12 cents a share. Okay, they're not going from here to here. They want the bigger moves. And I assume it's because they know something. And that's what today looked exactly like. And that's why I just think the market is probably unraveling. Again, getting back to what I said in the beginning, we're outside of standard deviation right now. After last week, which is 3 standard deviations down, you've probably heard me say that way too many times on this stream alone. But I can't stress how crazy that actually is historically to be outside standard deviations. First of all, 3 standard deviations, and then right back at it again the following week. We already had bigger moves priced in. The best longs come from crowded shorts. I believe today was that scenario. People fading the market on job numbers from last week. Yeah, I agree. Alan, I'll say it one more time. That sounded very condescending. But I said it a lot in the beginning. I actually kicked this stream off if you want to rewind it. And for everybody that is just joining now, we were 3 standard deviations down last week. There's a 1% chance that actually happens. And then this week, so when that does happen, by the way, the expected moves for the next week, we're pricing in a much bigger move. Already on top of a much bigger move priced in, we are outside of it again. This is literally jumping around padded walls in a straitjacket. They don't know what to actually price in and do. Again, I do think we kind of rein it back in. I think the fireworks are probably done. We have PPI tomorrow. I want to say it's PPI tomorrow. Yeah, so more letters tomorrow. Initial jobless claims. That'll probably be, those will probably come out bad. The market will sell off. We'll kind of stay right there and hang out. If that comes in good and we absolutely send it, there's just, I'm not going to be I'm not selling any calls tomorrow at all. Hang on a second. I gotta. There we go. All right. Okay. Anyway, let's jump back in. Sorry, TikTok's great with this the people showing up. Nvidia chart looks suspect though, like a drop from a peak in a market cycle chart. We'll have to look at it. Tech, absolutely. So yesterday we go from rejecting this zone, jumping up, rejecting, and just bounce right out of here, and then just forgot, we were looking at the charts today, but then who's that Don guy anyway? Full send. Not a single seller right here. Bull flag. Case says she was already doing it. You got to do it faster. We don't need stupid people. All right. But actually, real quick, sorry, he was saying he doesn't actually show us plays. And for anybody that does think that, you can actually join. You can join the Patreon, and you can just scroll up and look at them all and do all the homework you want. Audit it to your little heart's content. You'll notice I probably made more than you ever have in the stock market. Probably ever will. And this is my slowest year. All right, anyway. Tech does look like a bull flag. I just think it's up there. I think that's a little overbought. Maybe I'm just biased. I want them to rein it back in. I don't want week after week where we're just outside standard deviations, because that's makes things very unpredictable. If market makers can't even get it right, like, who else can? As far as futures go, that's an uptrend. There's just kind of no other way to put it. There's 3 people trading overnight, so I wouldn't do too much. I wouldn't worry too much about this. Let's see. You can, because you're done. NVIDIA had a ton of weekly call options. 1.9 million deltas. Well, let's talk about... Actually, let's jump to NVIDIA real quick. As far as the expected moves, we're outside here. QQQ, 2 standard deviations, 476.46. Unreal. While we're on tech, let's just jump over to NVIDIA real quick. It's funny how many of you guys, when you see NVIDIA looking like this, don't buy it. I saw the thumbnails. Maybe they're clickbait because no one actually tells the truth anymore. Don't buy NVIDIA. NVIDIA to 79. That was from my group. NVIDIA to 90. Everyone's calling out all these lower zones, and I guess the trend is down, but it's like the bullhorn just got bigger and louder every time there was a red candle. People just kept shouting it and shouting and shouting it. Almost one of your indicators, it's probably about to turn around. And like I said, and nothing's changed, is NVIDIA for me below 120 is like, all right, that's a buy. Anywhere from 120 to 100, again, 120, that's probably like a 1. 100, that's a 10. Time to grab it. We dropped all the way down to 101. You were at a 9 on that scale. Maybe 9.5. Anyway, and they just turned around and sent it. This is not real, right? But I just feel like anytime, so we had that, the subpoena that didn't happen. Anytime this happens, I just feel like Pelosi had some friends. They were out of town. They came back like, hey, I want to dip buy. She said, hey, 1 second, I got you. Let's just drum up some of these papers real quick. Let's get a report out there. You'll know when to buy. I'll send the signal. It'll be on the charts. It'll be down. And then all our friends buy it up, and then everybody else buys the dip. I just don't know if NVIDIA, I know the second I say this, here it comes, is going to get to that $79 mark or anything sub 100. It is just getting snapped up really quick. And NVIDIA, very characteristic to just go up, sideways, up. And I think NVIDIA's parking it for a while. These are some wild swings for traders, but it's kind of one of those, why aren't you buying the dip things? What are all these expected? These must not be updated. Or they are, and I just deleted everything for no reason. Hang on, we're going to turn that back off. All right, NVIDIA, 1 standard deviation. I have it up on a different monitor. 1 standard deviation, 110.51. 2 standard deviations is 118.18. You want to know what's really garbage right now? I sold the 118 and posted, so anybody that agreed with that play, sold the 118 for scraps. Now, I sold the 118 because I thought, I'll get some free money, but what are the chances we absolutely send it? Here they are. We're sending it. So I need NVIDIA to pull back. Let's stop playing games. I have the 118 for this Friday. It needs to chill, especially for the scraps I sold that 118 for. I think at $24. Ridiculous. But no way. Now, I told you guys before, so I had the 117 sold. It sold off, pushed back up. I'm going to keep the 117. I decided to do 118. I'm probably going to keep the 117 and 118 strike. Maybe 119, because I do think NVIDIA is going to be parked for a while. I'm just not too terribly worried if it sends it. If we don't start pulling back, I'll start to, and what I mean is, like, I sell the 118, it runs up to 130. So the next week, I'll roll that contract to probably 118. If we're hanging out, I'll start to roll it up to the 119, the 120. I still collect money when I roll. In the money doesn't actually mean anything. It's how far you are away from at the money. Theta is going to be the same. Your most theta is at the money. As it branches away, $1 away, up or down, starts to go down. It's just like a standard bell curve. So I don't get too worried when it gets in the money. I'm not worried about early assignment. I guess I would be if I had the 118, it's at 150, 160. I might think about that. But for now, so anybody following that account, you might just see me roll to the 118s for next week. We'll see. We'll see what's juiced up or not.